Hi, Miss Jima. I
Hello.
texted John. He was having a little issue with his with some Wi-Fi earlier today. So I just want to let you know I texted him, made sure he's on his way in here.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Hi, Miss Jima.
Hello.
Uh-oh.
Is this Rania?
Oh, geez. Sorry, I had to fix the YouTube there. We're good now.
Just let me know when we are ready.
Okay.
All right. Sorry, it took me a minute or two to get over here. President Chima, good to see you back.
Same here. Thank you.
All right, and I think it is 5 o'clock or maybe a minute or two after.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so all you need to do, I think we're ready to, whenever you're ready.
Call to order.
Yes.
Should I start?
Yes, and then we call to order, then we'll recess into closed session. I don't
Okay.
think we have any speakers. Let me just double check for you here. Nope, no speakers.
Okay. I would like to call to order the Board of Education meeting for Tuesday, January 19, 2021. This meeting will be conducted completely online. Executive Order N-29-20 supersedes prior instructions and prohibits a gathering space even if social distancing guidelines are followed. To participate in this online meeting, please see the link on our website. Live streaming on the YouTube will begin at approximately 6 p.m. and we reconvene to open session. The URL for YouTube live streaming may be found on the New Haven Unified School District's backpage just before the meeting reconvene to open session. Are there any speakers for closed session items?
There are no speakers.
There being no speakers for closed session, the board will now leave to open session and go to closed session. Thank
All
you.
right. See you over there.
See you. Bye.
Hi, Lori.
I'm hearing some voices in the background. So okay, there are a few board members, they have to come. Okay. Can we check with Melissa? Oh, here she is. So looks like all board members are present. We can start the meeting. So we are on the agenda item number 4, reconvene to open session and action from closed session discussion. The board will report out any action taken in closed. So the board will now convene open session and report out from the closed session. The Board of Education meeting for Tuesday, January 19th, 2021 will be conducted completely online. Executive order number N-29-20 supersedes prior instructions and prohibits gathering space even if social distance guidelines are followed. Live streaming on YouTube will now begin, and the URL may be found on the New Haven Unified School District Board of Education webpage. If you would like to provide public comment for this meeting, you may do so by utilizing raise your hand option in Zoom. Or if you are calling in by phone, please press *9 and wait to be called on. You can also provide comments to the board via our public comments at New Haven Unified School District-K12.ca.us email address. Additionally, we want to remind the public that we will not be responding to questions posed by those making public comment this evening. Relative to closed session item 3.1 through 3.4, there was no action taken by the board. May I have a roll call, please?
Yes. Trejo, Velasco, Canlis,
You guys are muted.
Yes, sorry.
Gonzalez,
Here.
Nishihira,
Here.
Schwinn Mallory,
Here.
Chima.
Here. Agenda item number 5.2, approval of the agenda. May I have a motion and a second to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Seconded.
Any comment or discussion? Roll call, please.
None.
Canlis,
Aye.
Gonzalez,
Aye.
Nishihira,
Aye.
Schwinn Mallory,
Aye.
Chima.
Aye. Agenda item number 6.1. Hearing of visitors on topics not on agenda. Because of the COVID-19 shelter-in-place order, the district has provided the opportunity for community members to address the board via email at public comment at nhusd.k12.ca.us. The deadline to submit comments was today at 2 p.m. Prior to the deadline, there were no comments, I believe, right, Lori? On the agenda.
That is correct.
Okay, are there any community members that wish to address the board on topics that are not on the agenda? Please raise your hands.
There are no raised hands.
Okay, so there is no speakers, so then moving on to the next agenda item number 7.1, hearing of visitors on topics on agenda. So because of COVID-19 shelter-in-place order, the district has provided the opportunity for the community members to address the board via email at public comments at nhusd.k12.ca.us. The deadline to submit requests was today at 2 p.m. Prior to the deadline, there were no comments provided. Right, Lori?
That is correct. And there are no speakers with raised
There are
hands.
no speakers. Okay, thank you. Next agenda item number 8.1. Presentation on 2019-20 graduation rate data. Mr. Pisani, can you please update us?
Hi, good evening, President Chima, members of the board, and Dr. Thompson. Tonight, we'd like to provide an overview of recent data that was released from the Department of Education in mid-December related to the graduation rate for the 1920-2020 school year. Tonight, we're going to be providing information about a four-year graduation rate trend data. We'll compare that data both to the county and the state. We'll look at the percentage of students who graduate meeting A through G requirements, the Seal of Biliteracy, Golden State Seal merit diplomas. We're then going to dive a little bit deeper into our cohort graduation rate by student group and look at closing the achievement gap. Again, all of this is from data from last school year, 1920, and then we'll end off our presentation this evening looking into the future with our Celebrating School board meetings, which are going to be scheduled in the near future. So on this slide, at the bottom of the slide, where you see a 4-year graduation rate data, there is an active link there with our documentation from the data released from CDE for your reference. So with that, if you could please advance the slide. First data point to share with you is the 4-year graduation rate trend data. As you can see from this slide, this provides the percentage of students who have graduated comparing years 2016-17 all the way through 2019-20. You're going to see that in the 19-20 school year, New Haven's graduation rate was at 90.8%, which was an increase of 1.9% compared to the previous year. But what you will see, and what this data slide presents to all of you, is that each year, starting in 2016-17 to present, we continue to, as a district, increase the percentage of students who graduate each school year. Next slide, please. When we compare our graduation rate to the county and to the state, New Haven at 90.8%, again, exceeds the county's graduation rate, which was 87.3, and the state of California, which was at 87.6. So again, the talking point from this data slide shows that New Haven exceeds the graduation rate for both the county and the state. Next slide, please. If you recall, as a result of COVID, we did modify the graduation requirements for the 2019-2020 school year. And as a reminder, for the class of 2020, we temporarily suspended the 2.0 GPA requirement, and we eliminated the 20 hours of community service that was required of graduates. So with this modification, we actually wanted to dig a little deeper to see what impact that had upon our students. So next slide, please. At James Logan High School, there were approximately 200 students who were able to graduate as a result of this modification of these requirements. 11 students had below the 2.0 GPA requirement. 29 students had below the community service requirement of 20 hours. And there were 166 students whose community service was incomplete. In terms of process, the Career Center claims hours at the end of 4 years if the student has been providing community service through the same institution over the course of their academic high school career. 166 students fell into this category. Next slide, please. When we look at Connolly Carabello, if you recall, Connolly Carabello previous to COVID did not have a 2.0 GPA requirement, but we wanted to take a look at this nonetheless. There were 33 students who fell into this category and 9 who were below the community service hour requirement. And when we look at Dakota, there was 1 student below the the GPA requirement and 12 students below the community service requirement. Next slide, please. Looking at the next talking point, which is the percentage of students meeting UC and CSU requirements, 48.7% of students met this requirement. And again, this was an increase of 2.5% compared to the previous year. Next slide. When we look at the seal of biliteracy, this is an area of continued focus for us. You can see that in 2019-20, 49 students earned the seal of biliteracy compared to the previous years of 53 and 59 respectively. This is an area that we will continue to focus on as we move into 2021. When we look at the Golden State Seal of Merit, again, 29.11% of New Haven students earned this distinction, and that this is the highest percentage of graduates earning the Golden State Merit Diploma over the last 4 years. Next slide, please. When we look at the graduation rate data by student group, this slide illustrates that, again, as a district in 18-19, we were at 88.9%. And in 19-20, as a district, we were at 90.8%. This slide shows comparative data for each of our student groups between those 2 years. So when we look at the comparison data, if you can proceed to the next slide, you can see the trend for each of the student groups, where African American, Filipino, Hispanic and Pacific Islanders, as well as New Haven as a district, as well as the county, all trended with increases compared to the previous year. Next slide, please. So the talking point that we, again, from the data in regards to closing the achievement gap, the New Haven, again, graduation rate improved by 1.9% as a district. There were 2 student groups who outperformed the district average in increasing their percentage of students who graduated compared to the previous year. Those 2 student groups being African American students as well as Hispanic Latino students. The African American graduation rate improved by 8.9%, which is over 4.6 times the percent of district-wide improvement. And our Hispanic Latino graduation rate improved by 5.6%, which was over 3 times the percentage of district improvement. This is definitely a trend that is most desirable when we're looking at closing the achievement gap for our students. Next slide. So again, comparing each of the student groups, you can see the percentage for the district was at 90.8%. Our Filipino and our African American students exceed the district's graduation rate. And if you look at the differential between New Haven as a district and Pacific Islanders, 2.8% is the differential, which is a very narrow band of difference when we look at our student groups compared to the district average. So again, that was a very brief overview of the data that was released from the California Department of Education. Again, in the initial slide, we have the reference data over the 4-year trend, and all of this information is available on the CDE website. Now, as we transition from looking at last year, looking forward to this year, at our next couple of board meetings, we are going to be conducting our Celebrating Schools board meetings for this year. On February 2nd, we're going to be having Emmanuel, Hillview Crest, Kitayama, Searles, Chavez, and Logan present to all of you some of the wonderful things that are actually occurring during our school year this year while we are continuing in distance learning. And then on March 2nd, we're going to have Alvarado, Easton, Pioneer, Itliong, Veracruz, Connolly, Carabello, and Dakota School for Independent Study. This evening, we do have all of our secondary administrators here, and if there are any questions, we'd be happy to respond.
Thank you for your presentation, and thank you for some of the good news in terms of the improving our graduation rates. Fellow board members, do you have any comment or question? Please raise your hands.
I have a comment.
Sure. Go ahead, Trustee Canlis. Oh, I see 2 hands now. Okay, Trustee Canlis. I think you're muted.
She's frozen
No.
again, I think. Her screen looks frozen.
Yeah, your
Why don't you
screen
move,
is frozen.
You can move on to the next one. Then we can come back
Can Trustee Nishihiro, can you start
This
us?
is a good this on a daily basis. Huh?
Linda, your screen was frozen, so we thought you cannot participate at this time. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm just gonna do an abbreviated. I just want to say thank you again for this report and the wonderful news regarding our student successes, the graduation rate, the biliteracy report, and of course the stuff and all the other information that is related to the new successes of our students in spite of what is going on around us right now. That is just really commendable that our kids are continuing to be positive and working their best in spite of everything. Thank you.
Thank you,
Did I
Trustee
get
Canlis.
through?
Yes, you did. You did this time.
Okay.
Thank you. Trustee Nishihiro.
Yeah, I am very encouraged. I mean, the numbers seem like they're really going in the right direction, but there is a little bit of noise in the data, and the noise in the data is around the fact that we've waived what seems to be a relatively I didn't think it would be this big of a factor, but the factor around community service as being an impediment to graduation rates. So that's actually pretty surprising to me that you know, a student who is like this close to graduating, but just for some reason cannot either A, find the time, or B, there's a lot of other considerations. There might be some students who might need to work, right, and don't actually have the ability to fulfill that requirement. I'm just wondering, like, this is all really great news, but does that mean that we're holding up our graduation rate because of community service? And is that an area that in the past previous boards have talked about re-evaluating whether or not that should be a graduation requirement, or what do we have the ability to do in this regard? Because it seems to me like the experiment that we're in right now, which is around COVID, has uncovered a few things that seem to be impediments for our kids. So what can you say about that?
So again, last spring, if you recall, we did make these modifications where community service was no longer a barrier to students being able to graduate.
Right.
And so again, after March was the time that we went into our shelter in place. And in essence, students who may have been working to complete their community service requirements, in essence, no longer had that opportunity, even though we did alleviate that requirement. And so again, in looking at James Logan High School, again, it was more of with those students that are listed in terms of numbers, 166 students. Again, once we in early spring modified the graduation requirements for community service no longer being a barrier, students who were completing their community service requirements no longer went through the Career Center in order to complete that process because it was no longer a requirement. So that number of 166, again, it's very difficult to determine what the actual number is because we changed the process when we alleviated that requirement.
Okay.
If I can add to that too, President Chima, that's
Yes, sure.
So, and really, there's noise in the data. There are three factors in there. Really, there's the community service requirement, there's the GPA requirement, and let's not forget that we had a hold harmless second semester as well, where students, if they were passing at the third quarter, they couldn't fail. So with any good data, there's always great to celebrate the moment, but it seems unlikely that we won't have a bit of a drop off next year because of those three data points that are those three different factors that confounded the data this time. However, to your point, Trustee Nishihara, this is a good opportunity for us to evaluate the things we have control over. We obviously can't go back to a pass, no pass. That's something that's beyond us. But we certainly should be reevaluating the 2.0 requirement and the community service requirement in more depth to find out if it does have a negative impact on graduation, because we are in the graduation business. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, my question was more concerned. By the way, thank you for that data. That is definitely clear to me. My question was around moving forward and sustainability of these rates long term. That's kind of what the nature of my question was. But yeah, thank you. That was my question.
Thank you. Trustee Melissa Schuen-Mallory, please.
Thank you. Well, first, thank you so much for presenting all of this data. It's obviously very encouraging to see these numbers. My question is around the biliteracy rate seems to be dropping. Is there any data to suggest why that might be the case?
So I know that both the principal, Ron Polk, and the vice principal from James Logan is here and present. And so I will turn it over to them for a response. Ron or Rania?
Yes, Ron Polk he has raised his hand. So please go ahead, Mr. Polk.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, board members and trustees. Good evening. For the real quickly on the, I guess the sustainability of the graduation rates, I just wanted to reiterate that I think we're going to be good going forward. even though virtual learning has had a serious impact on some of our students, but after looking at first semester and the honor roll list and group of students, we are looking at over, I believe it was 2,600 students out of the 3,400 that have a 2.0 or above, and many of which have a 3.0 and above. So we're looking very good in that aspect in terms of students and their GPAs, et cetera. So even if we brought back the 2.0 requirement, I believe that we're going to have a lot of students that are going to meet that requirement going forward in the upcoming years. So hopefully we can keep that trend going. As far as the state seal of biliteracy, many of our students, I would say, in all honesty, they don't know about the state seal of biliteracy unless they are taking another language. And so those students are the ones that actually apply. So I think it's really a matter of getting the information out to our students and making sure that they understand that this is something that they can easily obtain if they're actually taking a foreign language in a class, and they can prove their biliteracy. And so I think it's a matter of information. So we have to get that out there to our students and families.
I have a comment to make, Mr. Polk. If you can share this information about the biliteracy seal with our word language department chairs, then I think all of our students, not all, maybe almost all of them, they will be able to participate in this seal of biliterality, and it will definitely look good on our school district's profile.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Most
please
definitely.
share that information with them. Thank you.
Yes, I will.
Yeah, any other question or comment? No. Thank you, Mr. Polk, and making yourself available and coming out today to share or answer some of our questions.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Take care. So we were on 8.1, and the next agenda. Oh, this was only information, so there is no action. Agenda item number 8.2, presentation on New Haven Unified School District Communication and Branding Protocol. We will have a presentation from our superintendent, Dr. Thompson.
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen right now and go through the slide deck that is there. All right. And let me shift over here. Okay, so as the board knows well, our communication, you formed a communication and advocacy committee last August, and one of the pieces of work that that committee has undertaken is looking at our communication protocols, and how we present ourselves to the public, and in both visual, in all communication formats, and that includes our logo and our image. So we're at the point now where we need some direction from the board on a number of things, and we'll get to that as we go through this presentation here. Come on. All right. Here we go. Okay, so this is what we'll cover tonight. Should we undergo a rebranding process? What is that process, and what are the next steps? So we'll jump right into it. All right. So a lot of people sometimes people think that, oh, your brand, you just want to change the logo, and it's not that at all. That's part of it, but it's a much bigger picture than that, and that's what, again, the Communication Advocacy Committee's been focusing some work on. So first of all, this is when you're looking at a brand, think about the brand Apple. Just their one image they have is important. That's something we recognize. But then think about their commercials. Think about how they present themselves to the public. Think about what they're saying in everything that they do. It really establishes a pretty clear identity through how they communicate in both visually and in other means. And so they do a nice job, I think, of capturing their identity, their value, and their priorities in their and how they communicate in their marketing and their branding, in all of in how they even have, when you walk into the store, what that feels like. So there's a couple of key areas. There's the identity, there's the recognition. So in other words, when you see an Apple logo, or in our case, if you see our logo, it should bring in, you should say, okay, that's New Haven Unified School District. I know what they're all about. And I know anywhere where I see that logo or I get a communication with them, I know what to expect. So it creates that consistent identity, which is all of these things: logos, images, communication protocols, all of, and how we do all of that stuff. So I wanted to focus a little more on the communication protocols, because this is really important. And it gets down to, how do we deliver, how do we send out our dialer messages? How do we send out our email communications? When you go to our websites and any school site, what can you expect? Is there a template, a format? And so this is really, again, if you think about the companies that really do this well, like Apple, when you see an Apple commercial come on TV, you know what it, you kind of have an idea of what that brand is all about, because of how they've been able to share that identity through their communication. You can tell I like Apple because I think they do a great job with this. So for us, the question is, do we or should we go through a process to refresh our brand and how we communicate with the public? You can see companies like Apple, they don't hesitate to do that. So the Communication and Advocacy Committee came to the conclusion that yes, we do need to undertake this work. And first of all, one of our key areas, we don't have a lot of consistency in how we visually present ourselves to the public. We have, I think, 4 or 5, 6 different versions of our logo. Some of them say Union City, some of them say Union City and Hayward. One of them that we use, the one that's blue with the gold children, that isn't even our logo. That was created for the New Haven Scholarship Foundation, but it gets used. I've been using it sometimes. So we have logos all over the place, and we don't have any, in terms of how we present ourselves in other visual formats, websites and whatnot, we don't have any consistency across the district. Every site's, for example, left on their own with their websites to put what it needs to put it together on their own without any protocols from us on how to do that. Next, communication. And we have the same problem here. We really don't have any clear guidelines that we operate as independent operators. We've gotten a little better at the district level now. I've tried to bring some consistency into, for example, how we deliver our Friday updates, the different platforms we use, what you can expect if you go to Twitter, what you can expect if you go to Facebook, but we really don't have any guidelines or protocols, and it is totally dependent on individuals to make decisions about what we do to represent ourselves through our communication protocols. No organization Apple would never do this, as an example. You have a very clear process that you go through in terms of communicating about who we are, because it has to do with our identity and what and how we present ourselves to the public. I know we're a school district, but this is really important for us too, and we'll get to why when we get down to it. Here's another big part of it. And this one is something that we've talked about before. Our logo is something from a time past, and it doesn't represent or promote racial equity, and it doesn't promote gender equity. You all know our logo, the one that's our official one, with the colors of the different children, with the white child on top, and then with all of the children are girls in what I would call the Dick and Jane style image of what a girl looked like back at the what you might have expected a girl to be dressed like back at that time. Certainly, it's not what I would say we would want girls in our schools looking at our logo thinking, is that what I'm supposed to look like? Certainly, that's not something that in these times seems to promote gender equity. So we've got a lot of reasons for undergoing this process. On top of that, when we get into looking at things such as declining enrollment, looking at things of how do we want to retain the children that live in New Haven and keep them in our schools? How do we want to attract the students that live in New Haven that have never gone to our schools? They've gone to private schools. How do we want to potentially attract inter-district students to come in? And how do we want to, again, when it comes to retaining students, keep the pride that's already in our community and the pride in our schools that's in the community. How do we keep it there? And I think it's something that we have. I think our logo is an example of how we have taken that pride and that trust from our community for granted. But I don't think we can afford to do that moving forward based on the changing community demographics. We know that we're declining enrollment and we're going to continue to decline enrollment. So this is one of the ways that we can address it and come up with a better way of just communicating in general. So here are the steps in the process. First is, like any good organization, if you are going to develop communication protocols and a visual identity and all that stuff, you kind of need to base it on who you are. And there are certain things that we should ask when we go through this process. And you gather this information by going out to your community and asking what you want. You go out to your employees. And this is something that we've spent a lot of time doing within the last year. We went through the strategic plan. First of all, you went through 2 superintendent searches in a fairly short period of time, gathered thousands of bits of information. And then when I got hired, we launched right into the strategic planning process. And we went through this whole process again of gathering all of this feedback. You adopted our strategic plan in December of last year, a little over a year ago, based on all this data. So the good news is we've got this data. And this is good. When you undertake this process, a lot of organizations will hire an outside firm to come and do the whole thing. When the city of Union City went through this, they hired an outside consulting agency that started from soup to nuts, from the very beginning through this identity development process all the way through to the very end. And because I think we've done a lot of this work, I don't think we need to do that. So when we look back on what we've learned through the strategic planning process, there are certain things that jump out that are valued in this community. Certainly this came in when I was going through the process of gathering this information. These things became very clear that our community, our school district community values, and we see ourselves as innovators, and we have a long track record of that. We have a strong focus on equity. And I mean, we have the first, our Social Justice Academy at Logan, and all of their work that we went around developing the curriculum, and really a model for the state in some of the work that's been done here. We are the most diverse district in Alameda County. We're one of the most diverse districts in the state and the country. And that is a sense of pride within our community. And community. I mean, we are Union City is New Haven, and New Haven is Union City. We're so interconnected that interconnection, that pride, and that support is really strong. And tradition. So we can have innovation and tradition both, because we have a strong sense of pride in our history here in this community. So these are the things that, if I had to distill down who we are based on all the information that we have, and this was shared when we discussed these at the Communication and Advocacy committee as well. On multiple occasions, we've talked about these things. So step 2, I feel like step 1, going back to step 1, I feel like we've got a good sense of this. These can obviously be fine-tuned, but these are, I think, if you had to identify core areas, these are the ones that jump out. Step 2, and so step 2 is about developing options, and this is where we need some help. We don't need an outside consulting firm to start with the whole thing, but I kind of would phrase it to you this way. We need some help developing all of these areas. It's not just a logo, it's all of these things. Lance, Trustee Nishihara, this is in his wheelhouse, and that you might have seen his draft, or maybe we just shared it with the Communication and Advocacy Committee, but he was working on branding guidelines and a template, but it's a lot of work. And here's how I would think about this. I wouldn't want a marketing firm coming in and telling me how to run schools. I certainly wouldn't, we wouldn't go to them for advice on how to run schools. They would come to us. We aren't marketers here, folks. We don't have the background in doing this, and expecting educators, professional educators, to be able to come up with a professional marketing and branding protocol is not it's just not in our wheelhouse. So when it comes to developing options, one of the recommendations you're going to see is allow, moving forward with a contract to someone to help us to take our identity and develop some options for us. So once you have those options, and again, I've had people tell me, well, why don't you let kids draw the logo? Okay, well, that's nice, but we're talking about a professional, all of these things that are done in a professional format that we can scale across our district. So if you're at IVC or Kitayama or Hillview Crest or the district office, it's very clear on what it is, how we go about communicating, the protocols, the branding guidelines that are, so our community gets what they count on us for: clear, consistent communication. So this is where you're going to see a recommendation, and we're going to ask for board consensus. It's not an action item that would come with a subsequent contract, to allow us to move forward and try to find a firm that can help us with this process. So once you get options, then you have to go out and vet them. Obviously, we don't want to just create something and then not get community input. And this is where you take out options, you share the work, the proposals with our key stakeholders, our students, our staff members, our community, and we get their feedback. And then after that, we make some revisions, and ultimately it's a board decision. So we would, in the end, the board would select how we want to move forward with whatever logo or branding protocols or options that we have. If we undergo this process, here's a draft of what a timeline could look like. I try to move pretty aggressively through these things, and I think the downside of that is sometimes you fall a little short, but I think this timeline is reasonable. It would give us, if the board provides us with consensus to move forward in this process tonight, we can really dig in and start going through the process of coming up with protocols, the vetting. We have a communication and advocacy meeting. I think the next one's scheduled for early February. So this would be a big part of how we would move forward with that. And one of the recommendations tonight is for the board to delegate this process, if we choose to go through it, to the communication and advocacy committee to oversee. So let's talk about what we're asking for tonight. So from the communication and advocacy committee, we're asking the board to provide us staff direction to begin this rebranding process, designate the process to the communication and advocacy committee, and to authorize staff to pursue a firm that can assist us in developing our options. Again, not to run the process for us, but just help us build out professional options that we can bring back and share. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and kick it back to President Chima.
Thank you, Dr. Thompson, for the presentation. So I would like to ask my fellow board members if you have any thoughts, comments, or questions regarding this presentation. I see one hand from Trustee Lance Nishihira is first, so I'm going to allow him first, then Trustee Canlis after.
All right, so thank you so much. I think this work has been a long time coming, a really long time coming. I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to see this board talking about it. One point of process that I think would be helpful, I know that giving the creative direction to whatever firm that we decide to use is going to be important. So what I would like for us all to think about is, what are the criteria by which we think of a professional identity package would look like. What if you were to give direction or advice to the people who are going to be creating this, what are some things that they could shoot for? What are criteria that you would use to say, this is an effective identity system, this is less effective? You don't have to answer that now, but as a point of process, I think it'd be important for the board to start thinking about that now. So if this work does move forward, we can give whatever organization we decide to give it to a really good starting off point. Yeah.
You done? Thank
Yes.
you. Okay, Trustee Linda Canlis.
Thank you. as Mr. Nishihara shared, this is a long time coming. I still remember the conversation when we were interviewing John. I was partnered with Mr. Nishihara, and I think we spent a great deal of trying to figure out if he was the right person in branding and getting and marketing us out there, because we knew that we were in declining enrollment and money at the time. This is pre-COVID when things were a little bit different. But we knew this was something so important, and it has taken this long to get there because we got all the distraction that came along the way. With that said, it is time that we do move forward and authorize and give the staff and the committee the opportunity to move forward with the criteria that Mr. Nishihara has mentioned, and hopefully I keep on thinking I need to see the district on the billboards, on buses at the BART station. And I see San Leandro's ads right now, and it makes me think that could have been us, or that could be us. And with a moving bus, that's just so reaching so many people when you see the entire bus covered with the successes of our students in New Haven. So thank you.
Trustee Melissa Schwen-Mallory, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Thompson, for your presentation. I definitely agree that it's time to move forward with new rebranding. For the district, it is a long time coming. The logo is extremely outdated. I would encourage us to include the students in the process as much as possible. I know we want it to look absolutely professional, but we want it also to be something the students can be proud of, that makes them proud to share with their friends and share on social media. And, you know, you're right, attracting and retaining students, it's having a seamless identity and a seamless, you know, just the fonts and the colors and the logo all being the same across our whole district will just present so much of a more professional presentation and identity when people are looking at our school district. That will give them confidence that, you know, we know what we're doing, because we do, you know, that we're providing a good education to our students. It just makes such a big difference to people when they're looking into us. So I think this is really great.
Thank you, Trustee Mallory, for your input. Now, Trustee Michael Gonzalez.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Thompson, for your presentation. Really great. Yeah, our logo definitely needs to be updated. I can remember when I was in school. I don't know, Derek, if you remember that too. Definitely needs to be updated. But I see this as very much a student competition with all the within our district, with all the talented, gifted artists out there. There's no reason I don't think we can come up with a competition for this. You know, I'm even at the elementary level. I've done this for many schools, drawing our school mascot, and this is even goes even simpler with the logo. I would love for something to come within the community, homegrown, organic, with pride that one of our students do. So that it would be my recommendation. Thank you.
So for me, I think like Dr. Thompson, you have mentioned that Union City have done this process. I would like to know more about what they have done and what firm they hired and how much was the cost for that. I definitely am open to explore the options, but I also agree with Trustee Gonzalez and Trustee Mallory. Getting our students and the community, school system community, and the community at large involved. Maybe this is one of the topics we can have the Facebook Live and have some conversations with the community that, look, this is what we are going to do. But meantime, when you find out this information, definitely explore that, explore the options we can have. Since this is just an information item, so there is no action taken. So like you have mentioned, the purpose of this presentation was to authorize staff to begin the rebranding process. So I'm not sure, because in the executive content, that's what administrative content, it says. What we mean by that when we say authorize staff to begin the rebranding process and then the delegate the oversight of this work to the communication, and that's definitely okay. But the third content point was authorize staff to find a company to assist us with the development of branding and communication guide and rebranding proposals. So if the other board members, they agree, instead of having bring a proposal from certain company, I believe if you can explore and bring the information to us, then we can take a look and move forward from there. If you agree, all board members, they can let me know right now, or let yourself express your thoughts on this. How do you want to move forward?
I think there are 3 objectives for tonight's action, well, not action, recommendations, and that was what was mentioned by our superintendent. I'm wondering if we should just stay with the 3 right now and then consider another after that.
Yeah, would you like me to clarify that? I can clarify.
Sure,
So
Dr. Thompson. Yes.
Yeah, so it sounds like we have consensus to move forward with the process, which is good. And so that's step 1. Should we move forward? Based on the comments, I'm assuming we will. We can formally, it's not an action item because there's nothing to really take action on. And Trustee Nishihara, I know, has his hand up. Number 2 is delegating the process. So the oversight of the process to the communication and advocacy committee, so we can work together at the kind of the ground level to make it happen. And third is the part where we would like to explore contracting with a firm to do some of the professional work. And it can incorporate student work. That would be part of it, but it needs to be put together in a package that is professionally done. And maybe a student art contest for the logo would be part of it. But we want to make sure that whatever we're doing is going to be consistent with the way it can be put together professionally. And you need a firm, you need a market, you need somebody that does that for a living to help us with that. And that's what we're asking for. Now, obviously, the board, the contract would have to come to the board for action. So tonight, there's no action. Tonight is just, yes, John, yes, the Superintendent Thompson, go ahead and pursue that. And we'll vet it. We'll develop that at the Communication and Advocacy Committee. We can come back and take all of this feedback, the criteria and everything else, and present it to you for something that you can take action on. That's the goal.
So, Trustee Linda, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to share Mallory and Mr. Gonzalez mentioned about students being part of it. That is the A's had the elephant holding a bat. Do you remember that logo? Well, that was designed by one of my 6th grade students when I was at school, and there was a contest. Students from all over the United States entered, and then they send their designs. Then from the student design, they the hired professionals polished it. So we could incorporate everybody's suggestions, but at the end of the day, it could look professional, but we're not there yet.
So the sense I'm getting from the board members is that go ahead and explore the options. And like I have said, also present us maybe with the BCC to the board members from the Union City, what they have done, because we are so interconnected with each other. We are not different. So it will be helpful to see what they have done, how much money they have spent, what they have included to brand themselves. So from me, it's a go ahead and explore the options and bring back the feedback to us. Thank you. Okay, so this was 8.2. Next is agenda item number 9.1, required quarterly reports regarding complaints filed under the Williams Complete Procedure. This is information item only. We are required to publicly share information about any Williams complaints we have received on a quarterly basis. There were no complaints as you see in the presentation during the last quarter, so there is nothing to discuss. We will now move to agenda item number 9.2, an update on the governor's budget proposal. Our CBO will update us with this information item.
Yes, good evening, Superintendent Thompson and board members and those who are tuned in. So about a week or so ago, as it happens every year this month, the governor unveiled his proposals, his preliminary budget proposals. And in my position, I don't get to share good news very often. So I'm going to savor every second of this because it's actually good news. If we think back to all the things that we've been hearing since the onset of the pandemic and all the forecast and all the economists out there saying, what it would look like. At the end of the day, we all know that there are segments in our economy that really, really suffered. And then there are segments in the economy that actually remain strong. So in terms of school districts like us, it's good news when we take all of those things that we've heard and all the things that we've expected based on the state updates that we've been receiving in the last 9 or so months. This is a good proposal. And I'm going to share some of what those are because a lot of them are actually still being fleshed out. One article after another. There seems to be something on a daily basis from the different organizations who are watching these things very closely. But the governor is proposing a COLA. Now remember, in the current year that we are in, there is a COLA calculation, but it was not funded. So it didn't mean anything to us. In this preliminary proposal, there is a 3.84% COLA. So that's an increase to the formula that we are funded under, which is the local control funding formula. It doesn't apply to other segments in the education budget, but it does apply to LCFF. So that's very meaningful to us. There are other pots of monies that the governor is proposing in different areas of K-12 education. For example, a special ed early initiative, school climate, mental health. He has some of these programs for educator PD or professional development. He has something called Cradle to Career. So he has all of these things that he wants to designate money for. Child nutrition, and that's very important to us because our numbers dropped, and that's not unique to us. All of our neighbors, for some odd reason, our meal participation is very low, despite all the messaging and all the news that we share, despite the waiver, where we can actually feed everyone. And they can even go to any school, not just their home school. So there's a lot of pieces from the governor's proposal that are in different areas of K-12 education. But the big news for us is the COLA. A 3.84% COLA to an average district is over $350 per ADA. Now, for us, in simple ways, we're going to take that number and multiply it by the total enrollment that we have. However, we have to also remember that we are losing about 250 students. So there's 250 students that you're not going to get the full ADA. So just for round numbers, if we get $10,000 per kid, there's 250 students that we're not going to get $10,000 for. However, there's $350 in terms of the COLA that will be applicable to the kids that are going to be remaining in the system. So that's how we look at these things. So like I said, this is good news. This is a good proposal. It's worth mentioning that the hold harmless ends in 2021. So there is no hold harmless in the Budget Act. However, for declining districts like New Haven, we're going to get the benefit of the 1920, which we expect it to be the higher of the two. So we're still going to be okay in 21-22. That cliff from the end of the hold harmless, we will feel, at least based on information that we know now, we will feel it in 22-23. And I've actually incorporated that when we presented the first interim report to you all in December. So those are the big picture proposals in what the governor is including in that 21-22 budget. What's not in the budget is any liability or protection from COVID in terms of insurance. If you've followed that, there was some proposal at the state level to indemnify all school districts from that, and that's not in anywhere in his proposal. There's also nothing for hold harmless for UPP. Now, this is important. Our UPP has been dropping, just very slowly, but it's been dropping. That's why we don't get any concentration money, because we're under 55. But it's slowly dropping, and the difference between an ADA and a UPP is with ADA, we get the benefit of the higher of the previous year and the current year. With UPP, we get it in the year. Whatever that rolling average is how we're going to be funded in terms of the local control formula. What else did I not cover? In other budget news, we're getting a second round of ESSER money. That's a federal funding that we're getting. We got some of it when we presented to you the LLM as part of that big package, but we're going to get a ESSER 2. We're referring to it as ESSER 2. So those are the highlights of the budget. This is just the beginning in terms of the budget development process. In terms of what it means to us, we're going to be doing the LCFF calculator. We're going to be revising our multi-year projection. It's definitely better than what we knew or than what we put together back in December. So I know that we have a Budget and Finance Committee meeting happening next month. So by that time, we would have more information than what we have now in terms of some of the details of these different components. And that's the highlights that I wanted to share this evening based on the January preliminary proposals from the governor.
That's it. Thank you, Annette Heldman, for your good news and some detailed information. Any board members wants to ask any question? I see the hand from Trustee Canlis. Go ahead, please.
I know this is about the state budget, but I'm wondering, with the new federal administration, are you anticipating possible money coming from the federal government? I know I'm asking you to read their minds, but
a lot of the additional components of the budget actually are going to be federally funded, and there's of course another round of stimulus money that's working into play here.
Thank you. Any other comment or questions from any other board members? I don't see any other hands. So moving on to the next agenda item is 9.3 items from the board and superintendent. So who wants to go first? Lance Nishira, go ahead, start please.
Okay.
Linda, can you lower your hand, please? Linda?
Oh,
Linda. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's gone. Okay, go ahead, Lance.
All right. So I was talking to a friend of mine in a social situation a while back, and he and I have very, very different political views. And he came to me, we were just having a friendly back and forth. And he was saying, well, they have the Black Entertainment Network. And he was very, very frustrated. He said, why isn't there the White Entertainment Network? And I leaned in and I said, well, they do. It's called ABC and CBS and NBC. And it already exists. And it's the same argument that I would give when people want to say that all lives matter or white lives matter. Okay. It's simply not enough to use words to condemn actions or other acts of systemic racism. And every public official has talked about this, and we should all appreciate it. But more importantly, we should be mindful for how this actually folds into the work that we do in public service. It's not, like I said, it's not enough to condemn the White Lives Matter banner that was posted today. It's not enough to denounce the Capitol insurrection. In fact, I don't even really want to talk about those disparate acts of handful outliers. I want to talk about the quiet and implicit racism. This is the racism that you can't see, and it's actually more destruction than the racism that you can see. So one of the things that I'm very, very encouraged by the work that we're doing here in the school district is that we're mapping out a way to end systemic racism. It's very important work under Goal 2. Superintendent Thompson just talked about the rebranding work. This is all coming together. Now, the more and more I think about the state of the world and the conversations that I have at the dinner table with my kids, it's that we're all connected through very similar struggles. My grandfather came to this country in 1912 during the Great Okinawan, they're called Uchinanchus, the Okinawan laborers from Okinawa. They were under 3-year indentured servitude contracts with sugar and pineapple plantations, and they actually had overseers with whips who were keeping them moving. I also think about the Punjabi farmers who are fighting, 3 specific economic policies that minimize their ability to prosper in the face of growing agricultural privatization. Fully 50% of the Indian population is in agriculture. What is the Indian central government doing to diversify and educate their workforce and their economy? The 3 bills they're talking about right now, one will, deregulate free markets called mandis that will allow, the deregulation will allow big corporations to come in at an advantage and escape government oversight. It also removes the regulatory frameworks for contracts between merchants and farmers, and it allows big companies to store vast amounts of food and create supply imbalances that manipulate prices. And for that, I'm really glad that we're doing the work that we're going to be talking about the resolution today. And again, this is more work under a common theme. We have to think about the Chinese immigrants who came to this country to build out our railroads and suffered very, very perilous conditions. Many of them being buried alive while digging tunnels. Filipinos like Larry Itliong and Philip Veracruz, and Latinos like Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huertas, who are rising up against the farmers for fair wages and working conditions. Of course, there's also Native Americans whose lands were stolen, and of course we have to always keep in the front of our mind the African Americans who were brought to this country against their will to build this nation and then fight for it in the Civil War and the World Wars to come back, but not actually benefit or enjoy the fruits of this democracy. And they are still today denied access that, back in the redlining days, they were denied access to housing and are still to this day continually oppressed by authorities. All of this is very, very disconcerting. But I need to believe that the work that we're doing here matters. Yesterday I was rewatching President Obama's 2004 DNC speech. And that when I first heard that speech, I knew that there was more work that we could all do together. And so I, for one, as an individual board member, will acknowledge the fact that we are all complicit in systemic racism. We actually are the system in systemic racism. And I am actually very, very optimistic that we will be able to make a great dent in eliminating systemic racism in our school district. We may not be able to change the world, but we can make a change in our district, and I think we have the right team to do that. I'll yield the rest of my time, but I appreciate I appreciate you all listening.
Thank you for your comments, and I know we have a resolution coming up, 2 resolutions actually coming up, and they are well crafted. And thank you for expressing your desire to change our community for better. Appreciate that. So next in line is Trustee Linda Canlis.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Nishihara, for the well-said speech that you had there. You really hit the nail on the head. And if you look at this board, look at this table of the board. We are all from the marginalized group. None of us are from a group where we were privileged in the past. So I know that this group is going to make huge difference because every single one of us know what we've gone through. Now, with that said, talking about systemic changes, I think one of the changes that we'll continue to work on is the ethnic study, supporting of the ethnic study program in our schools so that our students will be made aware of our history, not just part of history, but the entire story that you were talking about. And you're right, we could make a difference in our own district. But you know what? I'm going to say more than that, because as I shared with our superintendent, other districts are contacting us and asking us to share our ethnic studies curriculum and program. In fact, I think Scott Baizani is working on that, right, Scott? Right. So I think we have the capacity not to only affect our students and our staff and our community, but we have the opportunity, a huge opportunity to affect other districts within the county and even the states, because they are looking at us right now, asking on helping them on how to get started at their district. So I'm really excited about that and really proud that they're looking at New Haven. This is before we even did our marketing. People are looking at us and helping them establish their ethnic studies curriculum in their school districts. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing another point in. Next, trustee Shuen Mallory, please. You are the next.
Thank
Melissa.
you. Yes, I was just unmuting myself. All right. Thank you, Trustee Nishihira and Trustee Canlis, for your very well put words. I felt a drop in the pit of my stomach when I heard the news about this banner on Smith and Dyer. It completely disgusted me that this is happening in our community in Union City. It's no secret that tensions are high right now with the transition of power in our federal government. And I think that we all need to be vigilant to make sure, as we're moving throughout our communities, that we're looking out for each other, that we're helping each other to stay safe and not become, targeted by any kind of hate. We definitely have a lot more to do. I went to the anti-racist stakeholder meeting this past week. A lot of our stakeholders that were people of color, they expressed concerns that we're not going to do enough. We're not going to go far enough as a district to address the disparate discipline that our Black and Brown students, especially our Black special ed students, are experiencing. And I think that this is not a time for incremental small changes. This is a time to basically do everything that we possibly can to dismantle systematic racism within our school district and to make large changes, very large changes, to make sure that this system is serving all of our students, regardless of ethnicity, race, sexual orientation, religion, and ability or disability, etc. We need to make sure we're not giving a whitewashed curriculum. I'm so proud of our Social Justice Institute, our Ethnic Studies group, but we can do more. And we have seen in the numbers that we should be doing more to make sure that all of our students are getting an equal education. And of course, as the Q in the LGBTQ plus, I want to make sure that our LGBTQ plus students also are feeling safe, welcome, and supported in their education and in their community. And it's just so much we have to do. We have to, Trustee Nishihira is right. We have to go beyond words and amazing speeches. We have to really change how we look at things and how we look at education to make sure that that we're giving everyone an equitable education. Thank you.
Thank you. Next in line is trustee Michael Gonzalez.
Yeah, I want to talk about an event that happened today in the wake of what happened over the weekend with the banner. And I'm not going to really entertain what happened, because that is such the opposite of what Union City stands for and what we're all about here. But I want to commend the event that happened today. It was the Union City Caravans Against Hate, and I was able to stop by there along with board member Shima, and it was the Racial Justice Committee that put it together today. And so it was very peaceful, loving, the exact opposite of the insurrection at the Capitol. It was a really great event. And I appreciate the community who put it together, the folks the organizers who put it together. It had students, parents in the community. It had principals, teachers, other educators were there. And so when I left there, it was very uplifting. Community against hate. It felt really good. I was really touched by everything. It was not, and they didn't do it, the press conference, and it wasn't about, social media, bringing attention. It was just about uplifting the community, and that's exactly what it did. And it felt great being here from Union City. So thank you, those organizers. Thank you for the event today.
Thank you, Michael, for capturing those thoughts. Yes, this event was very, very organic. That's what I liked about it. And I think even though we are saying that flag thing, the banner, it gave us an opportunity to connect with us. It was a community building exercise, so to speak. We all came together, whatever the way we could, and support each other. And hopefully in the future, we will have more community building, similar kind of events to bring the communities together. Thank you. Next, trustee Linda Canlis wants to make some more comments.
I'm sorry, I forgot about it, but thank you. I wanted to just commend our staff and our students for coming and joining our board meeting and celebrating student successes. Because sometimes we get so busy and we get caught up with a lot of the work that we do, but we forget what we do it for, and that's the students. So thank you for highlighting student successes on the next two board meetings, on the dates that we specified for those students, for those presentations. Thank you.
Thank you, my fellow board members, for expressing the concerns and comments about the situations we are facing right now. So I think before I give it to Dr. John Thompson, I'm not going to forget it this time. I just want to, remind ourselves that I do see there is a divine design. That's why we have this team together, and I'm very, very hopeful to make a difference how we operate and in our communities. All of us, we are very motivated. Thank you so much for your comments, Dr. John Thompson.
Thank you. So, and this is just a good reminder that our goal 2 in our strategic plan is really, really critically important. And the board had the forethought to adopt that last year. And all the reasons we're seeing today are the reasons why it's so important. So as Melissa pointed out, our equity work that we're doing, there's a lot of hard work that goes into this, and there's no easy, quick fix. If there were, we wouldn't be where we are today as a society. And it's the skepticism around sustainability and the ongoing efforts that amongst our communities is legitimate. So the nice thing about our strategic plan is we're in year 1. So, but at the end of this year, you're going to get a report on what we've done and what we didn't do. And then we're going to readjust for year 2. And then by year 3, you're going to see where we are at the end of our plan. I would be very surprised if equity didn't continue to be a prominent goal in the next cycle, because this isn't, like I said, there's no quick fix here. In year one, what you're going to see is multiple attacks to address this issue and this goal. The rebranding process is just one of them. We can do whatever we want, but if we're still presenting an image forward that doesn't back up our words, we're not putting our money where our mouth is. And so that is one step to get at the systemic part of it. Also on the systemic parts, we're revisiting things as simple as how do kids that are typically marginalized in our system get through and access our systems, access our alternative programs, access graduation. These are things that we're reviewing, and that's part of this process in year one. We're also looking at systems we have in place that are underutilized. We have an equity council that hasn't really produced anything tangible that I can see, and they're frustrated about this because they've been, in my opinion, somewhat marginalized as a committee. We underutilized, not marginalized, but underutilized. And so we're working on a draft administrative regulation to make our equity policy operational. They got shared a draft. They started this work, to their credit. And we now have a draft going back to them that we hope to adopt formally coming up. So that'll help operationalize this work across our district. And finally, professional development. Something that I don't even know if you're aware of, but Scott's team has been leading our administrative team through an exploration into the book White Fragility, and really breaking down some of the pieces that make it difficult for us to move forward in this work. We're looking at this committee that we have, and we're meeting again tomorrow about what type of PD we should put all of our staff through to make a difference for our kids, to help our adults have the tools they need to do this. So this is year one. And so we are going to make good progress and take big chunks to attacking some of this. But but I got to tell you, these kinds of things, these are the easy things. The hard work comes next in year two, when we really dig in and start doing, getting all of this work ingrained in what we're doing. And then, in year three, we'll continue that and we'll regroup, but we have to keep it a focus. Anyway, I wasn't planning on talking about that, but it's really important work. And I feel like this board is behind all of it. I'm proud to be part of it. And I'm looking forward to helping lead this work moving forward. So speaking of moving forward, just a couple of quick things. Reopening, I know that's a big topic. I didn't have a presentation on it, but we are in a holding pattern. The state's guidelines on how to reopen are challenging for all school districts, and I won't spend a lot of time talking about that. I covered a lot of that in my Friday update, but we're in a holding pattern. We'll see where we end up in a few weeks. We're doing the behind the scenes work, developing our plans and all that to adjust them to the state templates, but more to come on that. Looking forward to address the needs of our kids and to the impacts that this year may have on them. We are really planning on, if we can pull it off, having a full-scale, full-blown summer school program for our students this year, K-12, focusing on the students that are being hardest hit by this distance learning and COVID first, and expanding it out from all the way to our traditional high school credit recovery program, down to, if we can pull it off, elementary enrichment programs, if we can offer those as well. We'll see where we're at, both in terms of what the health climate is like at that time. And then, the other part of it is that we can plan all of this, but we need teachers that are willing to come in and work the summer school program too. So we don't know how that's going to turn out yet, but on our end of it, we are planning right now as if we're going to have a K-5, a 6-8, and a 9-12 comprehensive summer school program. I'm looking at right now, my thinking is our school year for next year starts in June. And, we're the program offerings we have this summer we're really hoping to be able to pick up some lost ground there for the gaps that we had. We'll see where we get. A lot of unknowns with that. Okay, good news, our pods, the small learning groups that we have coming back, where I think we have every site that's going to be able to launch them coming up. And some have already, I think Kitayama's, they haven't started. I know they're starting soon. Derek, do you know if they started this week or is it next week? I don't know.
Kitayama starts on the 25th.
25th. Okay, and then everybody starts right after that. Took a little longer to get staff matched up, but I think we're in great shape to have all of that really go. And celebrating schools. Thank you. That is something new for us. Is we have 2 board meetings devoted to nothing other than celebrating our schools and giving, and sharing with our community and all of you the things that are actually happening in our schools this year. in general, COVID related, and also beyond that, some of the great things that are going on. So I'm looking forward to that. And with that, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you for your updates. Next agenda item is 10.1, a report from the Budget and Finance Committee. Is there anything from Member Canlis or Member Gonzalez about the budget?
Our next meeting is on February 22nd at 2 p.m.
Yeah, there is nothing to report. So 10.2, report from the Communication and Advocacy Committee. Is there anything to report?
Yeah. Oh, can you hear me? Hang on.
Yes.
Okay, you can. Okay. Let's see. I got notes here. We haven't had any meetings between now and the last meeting, but we are currently seeing fruits from the work stream as we review the branding recommendation today, and we will continue taking this work forward. Our next tentative meeting is set for February 4th. Assuming that everybody's available, that's when we'll have it. That's communication and advocacy.
Thank you. Agenda item number 10.3. This is where
Oh, wait.
yes, 10.3 is where all the board members, they report out from their subcommittee assignments. Is there any, I see two raise hands. Trustee Canlis, you go first.
Okay, again, reminder that the AXPA meeting is this Thursday, January 21st at 6 p.m. via Zoom, and you all got the invitation from Penny Peck. The topic will be on state budget, as Ms. Heldman has already started sharing, but it would be detailed, and it's over an hour for you, so you could ask your questions. Everyone is invited. It does not affect Brown Act because it's a PD, a professional development session. And the other one, I think I will tag along on Mr. Nishihara's report on foundation, and I'll add it there.
Okay. Thank you. Member Nishira.
Okay, I'll report out from the New Haven Schools Foundation. The biggest thing is that this, I think it's a Saturday, yeah. Saturday, January 23rd, starting at the pre-show at 5:30. Starting at 6 will be the Diamonds in Education Gala from the New Haven Schools Foundation. It's going to be online this year, and so if you want to learn more about it, there's going to be a comedian there named Kabir Kabizi Singh. There's going to be a live auction. There'll be the Tom Kitayama Business Award, as well as the Guy Emanuel Service Award. And the James Logan High School Jazz Choir will be singing there. And apparently, there's also going to be some surprise guests. So I guess you have to log in to find out who the surprise guest is. And again, it's the 23rd.
Don, is it?
I don't know. We can't say even if we did. Okay, that's the New Haven Schools Foundation.
That's it.
Yep.
Okay, can I add the rest to that one?
Yep.
So the New Haven also started opening up their scholarships for people who wanted to create scholarship for our students. So that's open right now. And if you need to create one, contact Helen Kennedy and she will give you the details. It will be open for our students, I think, soon in January. But I wanted to share that in addition to our two scholarship, the leadership scholarship and the community service leadership, because of the untimely death of my brother, we've created two memorial scholarship called the Edgardo Canlis Memorial Engineering Scholarships. But the community did too. And they've raised quite a lot of money, more than what we have created for each student. So if you want to donate on that as well, it's on Facebook and we would appreciate it. The beneficiary would be students who are involved in the same STEM field. So it would be nice to have a tragic event turn to something positive for someone, so that maybe someday there will be the one who will be able to find cures or intervention for people who need support in medicine. Thank you.
Any other board member? Nothing. Oh, I'm sorry, Trustee Canlis, knowing about your brother's demise, untimely demise. I don't know that, but I just found out today from the Facebook. But there was no posting. We're so sorry, and may God help him rest in peace. Thank you.
Thank you.
So next online is action items, agenda item number 11.1. First is approval of resolution number 020-2021, solidarity with Indian farm workers. Wow. So do I have a volunteer to read this resolution from the
Mr.
board member?
Nishihara has
Mr.
his hand
Nishira,
up.
go ahead.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead, Member Nishira. Thank you.
Thank you. New Haven Unified School District Board of Education Resolution 020-2021, support of Indian farm workers. Whereas this resolution expresses the New Haven Unified School District's solidarity with farmers protesting the passage of farming bills in India and in support of affected members of Union City's South Asian community. Whereas the city of Union City has a long history of being a farming community, and whereas the New Haven Unified School District understands and respects the contributions of farmers in feeding nations, and whereas the state of California is home to thousands of farmers who still own farmland in their ancestral countries, and whereas the Indian government proposed and passed bills in September of 2020 to deregulate the sale of crops in India by dismantling minimum price supports for crops, removing restrictions on purchase of land by corporations, and removing limits on stockpiling commodities. And whereas these laws set up protests across North India, particularly in the states of Punjab and Haryana, and resulted in tens of thousands of farmers protesting and blocking traffic outside the capital city of New Delhi in November of 2020. And whereas the government of Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi have been criticizing for silencing religious minorities, including Sikhs, and these policies will likely have negative impacts on food and economic security in Punjab. And whereas most Sikhs live in Punjab and most Punjab Sikhs are owners and laborers on agricultural lands, and whereas India's agricultural sector contributes nearly 15% of India's $2.9 trillion economy, but employs nearly half of the country's 1.3 billion people. And whereas 86% of Indian farmers own only one or fewer acres of farmland with an average income of $1,400 per year and do not have the means to bargain with large private corporations. And whereas farmers have the right to demonstrate peacefully, and the New Haven Unified School District condemns any police brutality. And whereas the New Haven Unified School District has long recognized and stood with diverse communities whose families have faced hardship abroad. Now, therefore be it resolved that the New Haven Unified School District stands in solidarity with those residents in the state of California and the city of Union City, along with their families who have been directly affected by the farming bills passed in India, passed and adopted by the Governing Board of Education of the New Haven Unified School District, County of Alameda, this 19th day of January, 2021, by the following vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Nishihira, for reading it. I feel like from the way you have read that you have learned a lot about what's happening there. Thank you. Yeah. Any other comments or any questions about this before I ask for the roll call? I don't see any hands. So thank you so much again for all of the board members who have allowed to craft this resolution. And thank you, Dr. Thompson, for putting it in beautiful words. Thank you. Appreciate that. And now you know where I'm coming from. I was born and raised in the state of Punjab. And now you might also understand why I did my endeavor last year to save the last Ramirez farm in Union City. So we do care. Thank you. May I have a roll call, please?
Canlis.
Point of order. Do we have a motion on the table?
Oh, thank you.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
May I have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 020-2021? Solidarity
So
with
moved.
the Indian farmer workers.
Second,
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Oh, yeah, there's, we already have done the discussion, so roll call, please.
Canlis,
Aye.
Gonzalez,
Aye.
Nishihira,
aye.
Swin Mallory,
Aye.
Chima.
Aye. Thank you. Next agenda, item 11.2, resolution number 022-2021, African American History Month, February 2021. Mr. Pisani.
Good evening. Tonight we present resolution number 022-2021, African American History Month. Whereas February is proclaimed as National African American History Month in honor of Americans of African descent who helped to develop our nation in countless ways. And whereas the history and contributions of African American citizens have been consistently overlooked and undervalued in the curriculum of public education institutions. And whereas African Americans reflect a determined spirit of perseverance and cultural pride in their struggle to share equally in the opportunities of a nation founded upon the principles of freedom and liberty for all people. And whereas African American communities continue to be plagued by injustices today and continue to march and participate in every effort to secure, protect, and maintain the essence and substance of American democracy, as reflected by California Education Code Section 372202, which establishes the third Monday in January to honor Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his role in the civil rights movement, and California Education Code Section 37221D, which establishes March 5th as Black American Day to commemorate the anniversary of the death of Crispus Attuss, the first African-American martyr of the Boston Massacre. And whereas it is important that the curriculum in our schools at every grade level, reflects the experiences of men and women in different racial, religious, and ethnic groups, so that each student has the opportunity to understand the common humanity underlying all groups, develop pride in his or her own identity and heritage, and to understand, respect, and accept the identity and heritage of others. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the New Haven Unified School District commemorate February as African American History Month with the appropriate instructional activities to recognize the countless contributions that African Americans have made in helping our nation achieve greatness.
Thank you so much for this timely resolution. I remember previously we have done it in February. This makes more sense when we have the resolution in January so that our staff can plan or organize some of the activities in the month of February. Thank you so much for, and I have learned a new thing. So I have not known about Crispus Attuss actually. So may I have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 022-2021?
So moved.
Second,
So who was second? Michael Gonzalez. Any more comments or discussion from the fellow board members?
Discussion?
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Michael.
Yes, so with a resolution, I would like something a little more stronger with some more teeth. This resolution, you can just change the date on there. It would be, there's nothing that says it's of current times. I would like something in the resolution that's a little more stronger, something more reflective of the times right now, especially in the wake of the insurrection at the Capitol, George Floyd murder. I mean, there's a lot of things that Dr. Martin Luther King would have talked about today. And so I was wondering if I can make an amendment to the resolution at this time.
So that's the proposal. Let's see what other board members have to say. Now, next is a trustee, Melissa Schwen Mallory. She wants to share her thoughts.
Thank you. Yes, thank you for this resolution. I think it's very important to recognize this. I echo what Trustee Gonzalez said, where I think that we should maybe in the 4th paragraph include something about the Black Lives Matter movement and the continued murders of Black people by law enforcement and others. And then I would ask if we can make the language more gender inclusive. So where it says reflects the experiences of men and women, we could just say people. And then instead of saying his or her, we can either say their, or we can add their as a pronoun in the whereas paragraph.
That's it. Thank you so much for your sharing your input, giving your input. Dr. Thompson, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, it's going to be hard to write, to rewrite a resolution this way with getting comments like this. If that's it, I think we can do something. But if there's more edits to it, I mean, we have a couple options. You have a motion and a second on the table. So that's to adopt the resolution as it is. I think we would probably have to, I think probably we would need to go through. I'm just trying to think of a point in terms of a point of order here.
I think the process will be then take this action item from the agenda, and then if there is a support from the board, then we can recraft it. So at this time, maybe we need to entertain another
point of order. Actually, I believe that if the person who makes the motion considers these friendly amendments, then we can amend the motion.
Yeah, that's true. And then what we could do is if and I would just want to be really clear on what we're doing. And I'm not 100%, but I think we could do that. So whoever, let's see.
I made the motion.
Linda,
right.
Yes.
So see if I could say it this way. I make the motion with the amendments that we will be adding, and then we need to say what those are. So we need to be clear what those are right here, right now, so that we know what we're amending.
Yeah, and maybe the best way is for me to repeat back what I've written down as the amendments, and then you can correct me if I'm wrong. How's that sound?
And go ahead, Dr. Thompson, share but you have to capture that. Yeah.
So around paragraph 4, the general sense of trying to incorporate something more specific to the times, and in or around paragraph 4 to include some statement around the current Black Lives Matter movement, some of the current, the necessity for this type of, the importance of it based in current times, the current, and I can incorporate a variety of things there. And then
she mentioned gender neutral.
Right. And the next part would be to take a look at how we're using our pronouns and our different ways to describe people, and try to make them more neutral. And that's something that's easy to do.
Okay. Since I see Trustee Linda Canlis' hand, so do you want to share some more?
That was it. That was my hand for, I was going to share that we could amend it by saying what those amendments are and then go from there.
So we have a revised amendment on the floor to incorporate those changes. And do we have a second?
Somebody need to second.
So hold on, let's clarify the process. So I would like to ask my fellow board members, do we need to table this at this time and bring this back in the next board meeting? Or do you just want to move forward and just have the amendments? So what will we do with the amendments? So they will be never presented, or they will be just part of this minutes? Or how do you want to make sure that the amendments you're asking for, they're done?
The way we're doing it right now, if this is what we want to do, when this one comes out, it will reflect all those things that Dr. Thompson had mentioned already.
So Trustee Melissa Schwan Mallory, are you okay with all wording Dr. Thompson have mentioned.
Yes, I just have a question, a clarification question. Are we
Go ahead.
going, are we
Mhm.
going to maybe reread the resolution with the changes before we vote, or are we going to have Dr. Thompson make the changes after we've approved?
I can't make the changes tonight in the moment. You either have to adopt it as is with the verbal clarifications,
Amendments.
or we have to pull the item completely and bring it
Right.
back in February.
Okay.
Right.
So I know Trustee Linda Canlis, your hand is again up. Do you want to speak?
No, I'm sorry. I just
Okay.
forgot to take it down. Sorry.
So just for the clarification purposes, you just want to, I mean, fellow board member, you just want to move forward with passing this resolution. And Dr. John Thompson can bring it with the amendments in the maybe minutes, in the next board meeting minutes. Is that okay with you?
Can I say something?
Sure.
I think if we, for as far as process, if we just take an extra minute on this, it'll be we can work it out though. I mean, it's not too many editorial changes to it. But what I asked before was, is this the appropriate time to amend the motion or to add to it? The resolution. And so just to keep it simple, just something that like, whereas all lives don't matter until Black lives matter, just keep it simple.
So like Dr. Thompson has mentioned, he cannot make the amendments right now. I know this is an action item. We can have more discussions. So I would like to have a roll call maybe from the, take a roll call to find out if we want to move forward with passing this resolution, or we want to table it for the next board meeting, because we still have time in February. We usually in the past have done it in February. So this is early, we have done it. So if you want to, I would like to poll my fellow board members if they are willing to table it or they want to pass it right now. Maybe if you can, let's say, how should we do it? Raise your hands if you want to go ahead and act on this action item today and pass it with the direction to our superintendent in the future and the next board meeting to bring it with the amendments in the minutes only, not bringing the resolution.
How are we,
What's
we're raising our hand?
Yeah, you have to, okay, let's say all of you say yes. Raise your hand and show me, because show me if you want to go ahead and pass this resolution right now. Should we move forward with the roll call? Hold on, I see Sue. Okay, Trustee Lance Nishihira, you have not shared your thoughts. Can you please go ahead?
I have. I think that the point of order that I would have is because we've kind of, sounds like we talked through a couple different versions of the motion. Could somebody just give a recap of the motion on the table so that before we do a roll call, we know what we're asking?
Motion
The
is still,
motion that I had put,
hold on, Linda.
the motion that I'd placed,
Go ahead, Linda.
the motion that I'd placed was to move forward with the amendments that Dr. Thompson already covered, which included Mr. Michael Gonzalez and Ms. Melissa Swins-Mallory's comments.
And that is also the motion on the floor anyway to pass this resolution with the amendments you just mentioned. So, and we are at the discussion point.
Why don't we just do a roll call vote on that motion then?
Right now,
Yeah.
You have a motion on the floor, so you have to do something with it.
yes. We are asking for the roll call.
Canlis,
Aye.
Gonzalez,
Aye.
Nishihira,
Aye.
Swen Mallory,
Aye.
Chima.
Aye. Thank you. So next is action item 11.3, approval of contract with CSBA for governance study session. May I have a motion and a second to approve the contract with the CSV for a governance study session facilitator?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion, comments, questions from the board members? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Canlis,
Aye.
Gonzalez,
Aye.
Nishihira,
Aye.
Schwen Mallory,
Aye.
Chima.
Aye. Action item number 11.4, annual financial report. Ms. Heldman, may I have a motion and a second to accept the annual financial report for the fiscal year 2019 and 20?
So moved.
Second.
So moved trustee Canlis, second trustee Mallory, right?
Mm.
So in the discussion, if Annette Heldman, if you can share your thoughts, please, and board members will have the opportunity to ask any questions or comments.
Yes, thank you, and good evening once again. Earlier we were talking about, what makes New Haven strong and what makes New Haven good. I liken these things as a report card, similar to the letters that we get from our County Office of Education after they review our periodic reports. I think of these as the report card for the things that we do in terms of making sure that our internal control systems are sound and our protocols throughout the district are sound. With that, I also want to say that, at the onset of the pandemic, there were areas that were kind of waived or relaxed in one form or another. We couldn't say the same for areas under fiscal because, we still had to pay people. We still had to pay our employees. We still had to buy things. They may be different things than what we're used to. We still had to pay vendors, and all of those transactions still had to go through the audit process. I guess this is my way of saying I want to thank the staff in payroll and the staff in fiscal to make sure that, they are always behind the scenes, making sure that these are followed and our systems are strong. As far as the board's concerned, I would like to point out that in the report, in the packet, if you can just scroll all the way, and if you just want to see what the independent auditor's opinion is, go all the way to page 103, and it shows that it's an unmodified opinion. And as board members, that's what you want to see. All that means is just a clean audit, that internal systems are sound, internal systems are strong, and that's something to be proud of. We do have a representative from our independent audit firm, Ed Bailey, if there are any questions, but similar to also the following item, which is 11.5, I think of these things as report cards, and that we did the work, and we do adhere to our internal control systems and state and federal regulations. And therefore, as board members, the one thing that I want the takeaway from here is this is a clean audit, something to be proud of. And thank you to the staff who work behind the scenes to make sure that these are happening. Despite everything else that's happening around us, these still had to happen, and they do happen. So that's all I wanted to say on that. Like I said, there is a representative if there are any questions other than what I shared.
Thank you. So I'm opening it for comments or questions from the fellow board members. I don't see any hands. And Linda Canlis, go ahead, please.
I just want to thank the staff for all the work that they do, because this is a lot of work putting it together, but even harder trying to make sure that the budget works with all the not only the current expenses that you would have on a normal school year, but also the expenses related to COVID and so on. So thank you for all your work. You're not overlooked. You're appreciated.
Thank you. Trustee Melissa Chuen-Mallory.
I also want to thank the staff for adjusting and adapting quickly to this unprecedented time we find ourselves in a pandemic, and continuing to uphold high standards in our finance department. It's really great that, our audit went well, everything looks good. And even though everything else in the world is in utter turmoil, you guys held everything together. So thank you so much. It's very much appreciated.
you. I don't see any other hand. So because sometimes in the system, it does not appear. So if you still have any question or comment, you can still raise your hand. That's it. If I don't see anybody, so roll call, please.
Canlis,
Aye.
Gonzalez,
Aye.
Nishihira,
Aye.
Swen Mallory,
Aye.
Chima.
Aye. Next again is agenda item number 11.5, annual proposition 39, financial and performance audit. 2014 general obligation bond, measure M, as of June 30, 2020. Ms. Heldman.
So similar to the previous item, this is a separate and specific requirement under Prop 39 because our bond measure M was passed under Prop 39. So again, it's a clean audit. What the auditors look for is how did we spend the money? Did we spend it on the approved projects that we said we would? And we did not spend it on teacher salaries. And that's usually the requirements of, it's called a performance and a performance and financial audit, because it's a specific requirement of Prop 39. But similar story, we should be proud that we are following and adhering to our internal control systems as far as the bond monies are concerned. And thank you to staff for making sure that those things are happening behind the scenes. And we do have our fiscal director, May Chan. She doesn't join us very often in the screen, but yeah, a lot of the work is under her leadership and our staff in payroll and fiscal services.
Thank you, Ms. Chan. We see you. Thank you. So may I have a motion and a second to accept the annual proposition 39, financial and performance audit, 2014 general obligation bond, measure M, for the 2019-2020 fiscal year.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion, comments, or questions? I see Trustee Linda Canlis' hand. Go ahead.
Again, I just want to thank the staff, and I hear that May Chan did a lot of bulk of this work. So thank you for all your sleepless night. It's paying off of keeping us afloat and making sure that our students get and whatever they deserve, the best that they deserve. So thank you.
Ms. Chima, may I add one last thing as far as this particular
Sure.
one? We have our bond oversight committee meeting this week, and this audit will be presented to them as an information item, just so you know.
Thank you. So do we have the full bond oversight committee members available now?
Yes.
I think
They're all appointed now, yes. And that meeting is on Thursday, and this is one of the items on our agenda.
I see. Thank you. Thank you, staff. Thank you, May Chan, again, for keeping it together in this turmoil time. Appreciate that. So I don't see any other hands or comments. So may I ask for the roll call, please?
Canlis,
Aye.
Gonzalez,
Aye.
Nishihira,
Aye.
Swen Mallory,
Aye.
Chima.
Aye. Next agenda item is 11.5, annual proposition 39. No, this, we have done it. So acceptance of 7-Eleven District Advisory Committee report and recommendations for the field area of Colony Carabello High School. The 7-Eleven committee has found that Colony Carabello High School field property is surplus to the needs of the district. This would allow the district to pursue other uses for that property, such as selling the property. So before we hear the content, may I have a motion and a second to accept the 7-Eleven committee report?
So moved.
Second.
So discussion, any comments or questions if you have read the this agenda item?
Yep.
Okay, before I allow our CBO, Annette Heldman, to present the whole item to us, so Trustee Linda Canlis has some.
No, I'm waiting till after she's done presenting.
Oh, okay. Okay, because your hand was up. Thank you. Annette Heldman?
We actually have the chair of the 7-Eleven committee and the vice chair. if there are any questions, but they are with us tonight to present this item for your acceptance. The write-up or the minutes also share the meetings that have been held with regards to the 7-Eleven committee. And what is before you is a culmination of a lot of those discussions specific to the Greenfield area of Conley Carabello. So our chair of that committee is Ms. JP Sahi and Ms. Lydia Edem. They are with us tonight if there are any questions, and they are here to address the board.
Yeah, just a point of clarification. I told them they didn't have to address the board, that they'd be here for questions, and then we would present the report. So if you have any questions about the report or of the chairs, then now's the time.
Let's see what Trustee Linda Canlis has to say first, then we will see.
My comments are not questions. I just want to commend the committee for asking wonderful questions and having the staff also come up with possible answers to their questions. Your questions are so well thought of. As I was reading it, I kept on coming up with questions as well, but you asked them already, and they're right there along with possible answers to them. So good job in questioning and asking questions regarding the possibility of different uses for those spaces. Thank you for your work. I know it's all volunteer.
Yeah, thank you. Trustee Lance Nishira.
Yeah, my question is less around the report and more about kind of the larger process. And that is there a mechanism somewhere in this process by which there is public, I know from what I gather, it's not within the scope of the 7-Eleven committee. So my question is a little bit broader. What is the mechanism by which we can get feedback from the residents who live close to Conley Carabello? What would be unfortunate is for this to happen and our citizens not actually be heard. So if there were any problems or concerns, I can't think of any right off the top of my head, like the pros and cons of actually of selling that piece of property. But at very least, as a point of process, we should be diligent in making sure that everybody is aware that this is happening. And so that's the larger question that I have. And I'm just trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to cover from this item. Because as an example, if we sell that piece of property and we no longer have any control over it, and then whoever purchases it decides to do something with it, and then people in the neighborhood will be wanting to ask their friendly neighborhood trustee what happened, why weren't we notified about it. I just want to be able to have a really good answer to show that this district has done the best effort to get the word out and to spark the conversation.
I can address
So,
that, President Chima.
Sure, go ahead.
So we have Dutra. Is it? Oh shoot! It's Ms.
Dominic.
What's the name of his firm?
3D strategies.
3D.
Yeah. 3D Strategies and Mr. Dutra have they're advising us on this process. It's a great question, and given that he does this that his firm does this all the time, just recently entered into a similar deal. We, as everyone knows, we have an offer from Hard to purchase our land, and he just helped work with Hayward Unified on a similar arrangement. We can certainly get some feedback from 3D Strategies and his firm on how best to go about addressing your concerns and what to do about that in terms of community notice. And
Okay.
that's something that when we get to it's, we can make that a consensus item towards the end if you'd like us to provide you with that feedback on.
Okay, that would be great. I mean, I know today's action is just about accepting the report and not on anything else related to the process, but I at least wanted to be able to kind of voice that, that priority.
If I may add, Dr. Thompson.
Sure.
The 7-Eleven committee meetings are governed by Brown Act, and therefore All of it is conducted in public. It's required to be conducted in public. In the provision of public input in every agenda, which is a requirement of the Brown Act, also could help with that, publicizing that process. And so we, from the very beginning, we made sure that those are in place, because that, as you said, is very important to make sure that we are open and transparent with regards to this process.
Yeah. My question was less around the propriety of how we hold the meeting in terms of our governance standards. It's more about, okay, we had this meeting. It was noticed. The question is, have we actually proactively tried to ensure that everybody who lives in that neighborhood knows about the possibility of the sale, and do they have the opportunity? So it's not about, did we create an open meeting within the confines of the Brown Act? It's, have we done our best to ensure that everybody who might have an interest in this knows about it and can provide public comment. So it's really about being proactive outreach to make sure that everybody knows, has the ability to know what's going on. That's it.
So I do see Trustee Linda Canless's hand. Go ahead, Ms. Canless.
Yeah, in addition to that question, I'm assuming that 3D Strategies has criteria regarding who buys the property and that it is used appropriately, because it is right next to a school. So I'm assuming that there are criteria and requirements for whoever buys that the use has to be appropriate, right?
The Naylor Act actually guides us in that process in terms of who we can engage with as a public entity and as a publicly owned property.
Got it. Thank you.
So thank you, Annette, for clarifying. And I know you have sent us the Naylor Act information. But from my previous experience when we sold the Cabello school property, I do remember after the fact, after we sold the property and the developer was going through the process of building the home, so the permit process. So there was a stakeholders or neighbors meeting, and I did participate in that meeting. I don't remember, Annette, I think you were in the staff at the time. And previous CBO, Akar Varadarajan, he was there. And several of the neighbors, like Trustee Nishi has mentioned, they came to that meeting. They were so upset. How come they didn't know that this property has been sold? They did not differentiate between the school board members, because school board members, they have sold the property. And city was just giving the permit to develop that property. But they were mad at the employees from the city hall, and Akbar Baradar happened to be there as well, and I was there too. So this is very, very valid point. I think we need to do something about that process, letting the neighbors know what are our intentions. I know this also, we are simply accepting the report from the 7-Eleven committee at this time, but in the we also have given our staff the recommendation to explore further what kind of process we will be following. So when we are doing that, please make sure that neighbors, they are aware, or there is some kind of mechanism to let them know that this property is being sold or available. Thank you. So may I have we already have a motion and a second. So now roll call, please.
Canless.
Aye.
Gonzalez.
Aye.
Nishihira.
Aye.
Swen Mallory.
Aye.
Chima.
Aye. Oh, I forgot to mention, thank you, Chair Jitendra Pal Sahi and Co-Chair Lydia Idem for doing all this community work. Appreciate that. Thank you. And agenda item number 11.7, approval of memorandum of understanding with Ohlone Community College and District 2020 2021, 2021-2022, 2022-2023, 2023-2024. May I have a motion and a second to approve the memorandum of understanding with Ohlone Community College District 2021 to 2021 through 2023 to 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, before we go ask about our comments or question, I would like to ask Scott Pisani to give us update on this agenda item.
Thank you. This evening, we're presenting to you after months of collaboration with Ohlone College and with the leadership of Logan's Vice Principal, Rania El Sayoufi. We are presenting this memorandum of understanding for you to consider to engage in creating a new opportunity for our students called College Connections. This is an alternative education collaboration between the district and Ohlone. It is a program that provides supportive academically rigorous environment for self-directed learners looking for a non-traditional collegiate pathway for high school seniors from New Haven who would attend Ohlone College full-time on a daily basis, both earning high school and college credit. Some of the goals of this program include adequately preparing students for college, exposing them to several career opportunities and courses that are available to typical high school students, and providing student support services needed to be successful in high school and college courses, and emphasizing that college can be for all students, and giving underrepresented minority and or non-traditional students an opportunity to pursue higher education. And so with that, we're asking for your consideration of entering into this MOU. Again, this evening also, Vice Principal from Logan, Rania El Sayoufi, is here as well. Are there any other questions?
Thank you. Any comments or questions from fellow board members? I don't see any hands up, and thank you so much for making this connection happen. I do remember many years back, there was a concurrent enrollment program and then it went away. So now it's better connection, actually. They can earn both high school and college level, our kids. I see Trustee Michael Gonzalez hand. Yes, I'm gonna give you a chance.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me just finish my thought. Actually, I lost it. So yeah, then one thing I would like to mention is with our strategic plan, remember there was a goal number, I think 2.3 when you were mentioning early, 2.1. So this is another point we can add there. Strategically, we are helping because some of our students, high achieving students, they are looking for more opportunities. So this will be another opportunity for them to participate and advance their education. Thank you, Trustee Gonzalez, for waiting. And now is your turn.
Yeah, through the chair, just since we have the principal here, I'd like to hear about the program. Since we have the principal, can you speak on the program?
Okay, so I do see raise hand from Rania Al Sufi. You are welcome. I see her hand. Okay, here she is.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So we're very happy to have this finally, after last year's work and this year's work with Ohlone. We're very happy to be offering this program with them. We've last year we worked with them to begin offering dual enrollment courses with Ohlone and Chabot colleges on Logan campus, and we've managed to do that, and our students have begun participating with those courses. This College Connections program, which is the same as middle college, offers pretty much the opposite of what a dual enrollment course does. College Connections offers our students the opportunity to take half high school courses at Ohlone College and half college courses at the same time. The students in 11th and 12th grade will take English and social science courses that are Logan courses, but they will take them at Ohlone campus. They will be our teachers and our curriculum. The rest of their elective classes, they will be taking as Ohlone electives.
Are you done with your comments? Okay, I do see hand up from trustee Melissa Mallory. Your time.
Oh, yes. Thank you for your work on this project. I was reading, I was pretty impressed with the program. I took dual credit courses in high school. But they were some of my favorite classes in high school. So I really appreciate the effort to allow some students that may not normally have a chance to go to college to get college experience while they're still in high school. I think this is really great. So thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you. So since this motion is already, the section is already moved and seconded, so roll call, please.
Canlis.
Aye.
Gonzalez.
Aye.
Nishihira.
Aye.
Schwen Mallory.
Aye.
Chima.
Aye. So next is agenda item number 12, which is a consent agenda item. Consent agenda items are considered routine matters and are voted on as a group by the board. Members of the board or audience may ask questions about consent items as if they were regular items. Upon board request, an item may be removed from the consent and voted on separately. Are there any items board members wish to remove from the consent agenda for discussion and or separate action? Seeing none, may I have a motion and a second to approve consent agenda items from 12.1 through 12.10?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Oh, no, there is no discussion because there is consent. So roll call, please.
Canlis.
Aye.
Gonzalez.
Aye.
Nishihira.
Aye.
Schwen Mallory.
Aye.
Chima.
Aye. Thank you. So now this agenda item number 13 has nothing because we have not put anything holded from the consent agenda. Number 14 is governance review. Assessment of governance procedures and protocols in today's meeting. So anybody has found that we could have improved our meeting, please share your thoughts now. I see trustee Lance Nishihira's hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, one thing that seemed a little bumpy that could have been a little bit smoother is how we negotiated and passed the resolution regarding Black History Month. I'm just wondering what we could have done a little bit differently. Sorry, African American History Month. I'm just wondering if there are things that we could have done differently to make that motion and or that process a little smoother.
So I do see trustee Melissa Schwen Mallory's hand up. So go ahead, please.
I was just going to mention about the same thing that trustee Nishihira just brought up. I participate in other bodies where we pass resolutions where we are able to put the resolution up on share screen and edit the resolution in the meeting and then pass it. And this is a body that follows Robert's Rules of Order like we do. So that might be a suggestion that I have.
Okay, let's hear from trustee Linda Canlis.
Right. Another suggestion that I'm thinking about is the reason we get our agenda items ahead of time is so that we could get back to the administration if we have concerns. For example, if we think we need to add blah, blah, blah in the resolution, don't assume that they're going to have it there. Make sure that you send that information. But if you get it back, and we did, and you don't see it, please let them know. And they're very good at responding right away and make changes right there. That way, we don't use extra time trying to debate what to do. And we have something that we want already before we even go to the meeting. Just my thought.
Okay. So thank you for your input. Anybody else? Dr. Thompson, I think I felt like you were about to say something.
Yeah, sorry, I can't raise my hand, but I if you get me a notice ahead of time, I can normally try to suggest some revisions or even bring a revised version forward to do that. I do not think it's a good use of our time or the public's time to try to script something in the moment during a regular board meeting. I would not recommend that. So anyway, if you get me any comments ahead of time, I'm happy to do it. Normally, I would suggest pull the item completely. We'll bring it back and then bring the revised version back. Given that we don't meet till mid-February for a regular board meeting and Black History Month or African American History Month is next month, it seemed like this would be the middle option, but I wouldn't normally recommend we do things this way.
I think that input is effective. New board members, if I think you have the access to our agenda items 72 hours before, or even before, we can work on that one as well. So you can share your thoughts with the superintendent that this is how would you like to craft some resolution or anything, any item. This is our time. Okay, that said, I think we will follow that in the future. Number 15, is there any request of staff from any board members? I see Trustee Lance Nishihira's hand.
Yep. I have a request to recommend a process to proactively engage neighbors near Conley Carabello High School regarding the sale of the field next to school.
So, Superintendent Thompson, do you have to say anything in that?
Just want to make sure. I think we are. I just need consensus. So we have. I think this is probably. Do we have? Just give me a nod, board members, if you agree, and then we got it. Okay, we got consensus. Yeah, that's fine. I'll have. We'll have Mr. Dutra from 3D Strategies prepare kind of a recommended course of action related to this.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for reminding Member Nishihira. Anything else? Any other request? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned.